Hi there, I'm back to give an update on what's been going on with the metaphysical work that I've been doing with my knee. Well, I have been really busy with school and moving, so I haven't had a chance to dive back into the work until today. And so I just wanted to share with you what I was working on in particular today and where I got to. So today, what I did was I have been working through my chart of the different feelings, beliefs, etc., things that came up when I was doing the journaling, the metaphysical journaling to discover what themes were connected to the pain in my knee. And one of them is feeling a lack of security and safety. So basically, survival type of fears. And so the first thing you do is to look at what is the emotion that's coming up with my survival issues. And of course, that is fear. So when I close my eyes and feel into where I feel the fear, it's in my solar plexus. So it's like right here. And so to do the emotional yoga, all I have to do is to close my eyes, bring my breath and awareness to that physical sensation that I feel of fear and just be with it. There's nothing that you have to do other than just stay with it instead of trying to run away from it or distract yourself with like whatever you do. Like for me, I work. That's how I distract myself. So basically what I did was just observed it. And so what will happen is all of these different thoughts will start coming up around it. So if I wanted to go deeper on that level, I could have stopped to write down every single thought, and then I can work on those beliefs separately later. But today, all I did was just let them like arise and leave. Because you can get a lot of progress by just releasing the physical energy that is in that area by doing the emotional yoga, bringing your breath and awareness to the spot where you feel the sensation and just being with it until it disappears and dissolves. So that's working at the feeling level of it. But of course, these beliefs, they all start to come up. So you can dive deeper into them as well. But sometimes if you just relieve the physical sensation of the feeling, you actually make progress in the outer world as well around these beliefs that are connected to this feeling. So yeah, sometimes you can dive in like, straight at something or indirectly. So if this comes up again, then I can go back and do it again, but this time write down those thoughts and feelings. And then I have more material to work on, or work through. So, I did that and I, got like, it's not extremely active for me today. So I can't tell you what exactly, like I didn't feel any like pops or anything like that today, like physical sensations. So I've just observed and and if I feel into my solar plexus right now, I still feel tightness, right? So this is a huge subject and a big issue that most of us living in modern society feel to some degree or another is survival fears. Primarily, I believe because we don't live in community anymore. And even our family is not connected to us the way we would have had when we were living in villages and tribes, right? So at some point in reality, I would have never been in a situation where I'm a single woman living alone and there is no one else who is invested in my well-being on a daily basis than me, right? So automatically that just puts me in an unnatural situation. So of course I'm going to have these survival fears come up. Of course they're going to be there because that's physiological, biological. It's inherent in us as humans to have that. I can't change that overnight, right? So, and I'm not going to like go desperately out there looking for a partner to solve all my problems. So I am just having to work through the reality of it, regardless of the fact whether it's right or not, right? Whether I believe that this is a situation, I feel like this situation is unnatural and none of us should be in a situation where we are alone and the only one invested in our well-being. Okay, so, but here we are, this is what it is. So it gives me a lot of a sense of insecurity in terms of like finances and in terms of safety, basically. So, and I mean physical safety, right? Like being a woman out in the world. Like, for example, today I was at a coffee shop. This guy has been like just for months trying to get me to let him buy me a coffee. And I said no a million times. And then finally, one day, I just gave in, thinking like, this guy really just has to buy me a coffee. Like let's just let this guy buy me a coffee, and then he can be satisfied he bought me a coffee. Hoping that, this is not some sort of like, way of manipulating me. Which unfortunately, that seems to be the case in a lot of scenarios. So anyways, I let him buy me a coffee. And then, of course, a couple weeks later, he tries again. I'm at the till. I'm not like, head immersed in my work. So I'm a little bit more friendly and open. And I let him buy me a coffee again. Then he proceeds to ask me out to go on a date for dinner. I say no, thank you. Whatever. He leaves me alone. And then I'm thinking, okay, good. This whole coffee thing was just because he wanted to ask me out on this date. And I've said no. He now realizes that's not going to work. I'm not interested. He'll leave me alone. Nope, he does not. Today he comes again and he asks to buy me a coffee, and I say no, thank you. And then he proceeds to sit like directly in front of me, like facing me. There's like, a gazillion spots you could sit in a coffee shop and, give a person space that obviously does not want you to, I go there to work, not to make friends. Okay. So anyways, so it's really uncomfortable. I have to like sit there, right? And like deal with this. And those are the moments where I'm like, oh, I wish I had a boyfriend so I could just like tell him like, I have a boyfriend, leave me alone. But I'm not a good liar, so I don't ever like pretend. But sometimes I have thoughts in my mind that like, oh, I should wear a ring so that I look like I'm married and men can stay away from me. But then of course, like I don't want to like deter like the right person that may be available and who's attracted to me. So anyways, super uncomfortable. And then I'm like walking home and there's this guy who's like out on the streets. He's always out there and I don't know why. It happens to have to be the time when I come home, but he's like out on the street, like making weird hand signals, throwing his arms up in the air and like making weird sounds. I don't even know what he's saying. Like I got my ear plugs in because I'm like listening, my earbuds. So I'm listening to something and I'm trying to like ignore him. So I like literally like walk past him, make zero eye contact because I can tell he wants to like get my attention. It's just so frustrating. So anyways, yeah, so like especially as a woman, this is like a daily basis kind of thing that we have to deal with. So it's even more intense. So survival, like lack of feeling safe. So this is what I'm dealing with. So anyways, I just did my release on fear. So it's like a primal fear, right? It's like, I know logically that I'm not going to, the likelihood of me being murdered for not going out on a date with some guy or like some weirdo that is like mentally ill is, going down the street every day and acting like a weirdo is not like an actual threat to my safety. Like, probably 99% of the time it's not. But it's still, it just, it brings this up in your body, right? So anyways, I went through all the emotions around that, let it go, and then all the other minds, like thoughts that came up around just, things going on in my life and just life. And then looked at like, well, what's the overall thought? Like if I could add up all of the thoughts, and all the ways that I like feel like I need support, but yet I'm not available to let that in, right? Is because of wanting control. So here's how you know that when you've been doing the releasing work that you're actually making progress, you're actually releasing, is you'll get something positive that will come in, some sort of insight that will show you that you have actually moved that energy and you're making progress on this inner work. So it occurred to me all the ways in which I do not let support in, where the way I want support, but I fear support, right? And then what it comes down to is I'm wanting to control, right? I want to control everything because I feel like I've had experiences in the past where things that you might think of as being supports, like for example, this idea like, oh, if I had a boyfriend, then I would, be, protected from all these things. I've also had the feeling of that being destabilized by relationships, right? Where they're actually not making me feel more stable. They're actually destabilizing me. So then now I need more control, right? So I'm getting less, stability and safety and security by being in a relationship. So I've got like conflicting desires, all right? I want to be in a relationship. I don't want to be in a relationship. So essentially my question is, can I really even be supported in this state if I am wanting to maintain control, which is entirely coming from a place of wanting to protect myself. This painting, I just moved into a new place and like things are not up on the wall yet, so it's just like literally leaning against the back of my chair. So anyways, how I know that I got some progress with this releasing, I started releasing on the fear that came with feeling a lack of security. Then I moved on to looking at the thoughts that were coming up, and then translating that into one of a few different core thoughts that people experience. So the long and the short of it is I continued to release on the thought of wanting control. And when I got to the bottom of it, what I realized was this picture came in of when a person is flailing around because they're afraid of drowning, right? Like they're in the water, they're flailing. It's really hard to support or save a person like that, right? Because they're just like crazy and they're actually going to drown you, right? And I then had this picture come in of like, well, what happens when you actually just trust your reality, like the creation, instead of like looking for someone to save you? And that's actually possible, right? Like if they're drowning, all they have to do is turn over on their back and be very calm. And the water itself, instead of drowning you, will actually support you to float. And you have to be in a state of complete trust and relaxation for that to happen. So that was my sign from the universe that I had actually changed something. Something had shifted inside of me for that analogy to come in as a vision, right? So this is exactly what happens when you actually release something fully. That's one of the ways you'll know. If it's not a physical sensation, you'll actually get a thought that is like healing and a message and a new way of looking at things. So that's where I got to today. So I'm going to continue to, use that analogy to remind myself that actually my way to security and safety is to let go and trust. And that literally means to relax and stop trying to control everything and stop trying to like work my way out of my insecurities. So I'll probably write this down as a reminder, put it somewhere in case I need it again, or, draw a picture or something like that to use it as a reminder. And what I also noticed about it is that like when you turn like yourself over like that is actually like something that we do to show submission and vulnerability, right? And so for me, that is my submission and vulnerability to the universe, the creator, and getting back to that place where I trust in life again. So anyways, that was my process today. in my inner work to get to the bottom of what it is that is making me susceptible in my inner life to having this physical pain manifestation showing up in my knee. And oh, by the way, it's a lot better. It is not gone. Like I don't actually, what I'm noticing now is I'm not very often feeling any sensation of pain, but still there's a tightness and a stiffness and a congestion. So we're, still in the healing process. All right. Hope that helps. Bye for now.